Hello and welcome to another Office Hours. Oh, it's a capsule. I get it. Yeah. Another Office Hours capsule where I kind of take a little small segment of my Thursday live streams at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLives at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Little segments of those and put them up on YouTube for those of people who don't want to watch a 4-hour live stream. Today, we'll be talking about the Squadron 42 monthly report for November and December 2023. But I'd love to have you come join us live when we go live, like chat right here. Chat's going to lie to you and say that this is pre-recorded because that's what they are. Excuse me, I'm a little sick, so I might sound a little off. But we're going to be going over the entire monthly report. And for those of you who haven't seen these before, the way I do this is I read the entirety of the monthly report from beginning to end. I'll add my own little thoughts here and there, because I think it's important that if you really want to kind of pay attention to how development works and what's been going on and what CIG is doing, it's important to read through the entirety of it rather than listening to a summary. There's nothing wrong with summaries, but summaries are going to rely on the actual creator who's doing the summaries to decide what's important, what's not. And in the past, I've seen creators who completely dismiss ideas, which I think are pretty important. So, as always, I encourage you to read this on your own. I'll leave the link to the actual monthly report in the comments below, or in the description below for you to read. But for everybody else, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Remember, if you do enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit that little bell icon to be notified when these released. Without any further ado, let's read for the November and December 2023 Squadron 42 monthly report. All right. AI features. Through November and December, AI features continue to develop a key combat encounter by improving locomotion and simplifying weapon firing to use the same subsumption control nodes as human AI agents. Okay. Vanduul combat encounters were also iterated on, with the team fixing issues with enemies entering combat and moving into melee range. They also implemented Vanduul death animation using retargeted core directional human animations, which were then further polished. The Vanduul execution takedown window was improved and telegraphed correctly to ensure players have the appropriate opportunity to escape. For those of you who don't know, CIG has entire weapon animations for Vanduul melee. We've joked that Squadron 42 is the Dark Souls of space games because the Vanduul combat is just going to be Dark Souls. Wouldn't be surprised if you had rolling animations, but for those of you who are wondering, why is there sliding in Star Citizen? This is why. There's definitely a lot of telegraphed animations that's going to happen to hit you with these Vanduul melee attacks. A range of other combat areas were worked on too, including changes to the tactical target query system, which can now spread targeting across a group, but prioritize the player. New cover tactical position query term was finished, allowing non-line of sight cover posture queries, and an issue was fixed with characters and flow graph controlled non-combat custom assignments, not going into combat after exiting the assignment. Tech debt work was done on firing validation to ensure that it was better encapsulates the new debug render improvements, while synced melee attacks were connected to the AI melee combo system, so that follow-up attacks can be data-driven. This is used in a boss encounter to drive a follow-up synced weak attack if the previous one fails. Dark Souls. Finally, for AI features, the team implemented new invulnerability system to allow AI to take damage, but not go below a specific threshold. This is used to script the various damage-induced stages of a boss fight without making the character completely invulnerable. So, boss fights are a big thing in Squadron. They've mentioned it in one of the last Star Citizen lives they did of 2023, they were with the team. They said they had a big discussions about boss fights. So I'd expect more about that in the coming months and so. AI tech. At the end of the year, AI tech progressed with features and support for release builds. For Boids, they're close to finalizing the first iteration that will allow the designers to place fish, rodents, and birds in the environment. Recent updates include rules to avoid dangerous areas or actors, transition rules that will detect weapons fired / bullets hit, and the ability to switch from idle / wandering to a fleeing rule state. The team also further iterated on killing Boid's agents and how they transitioned from animation style to ragdoll. For birds, they extended the number of wandering states. For example, besides flying, birds can also walk after a landing transition. Synchronization between the server and client is currently being worked on. That was literally in the monthly report for Star Citizen, so very similar. Effort was also put into optimizing and improving various features, including the Pathfinder algorithm, collision avoidance system, navigation system, and subsumption loading logic. For Apollo tools, AI tech continued to support the designers with additional functionality, including the ability to create PNG files from behaviors, improved readability for subsumption flow graph nodes, and improved undo/redo actions. Several existing features were polished and finalized, including NPCs utilizing trolleys, which received improved collision avoidance. This was achieved by updating the PID controller logic and how it's used for path following when NPCs are pushing trolleys. For AI using ladders, new functionality was added. For example, NPCs can now check if the ladder is available and only use it if free or another NPC is climbing in the same direction. In case the ladder is being used the opposite way, NPCs will find a free spot at the top or bottom and wait. On the ship side, on the ship AI side, the team improved and extended spline functionality. This involved allowing ships to move along a spline while staying oriented towards the target, excuse me, and moving to the beginning of a spline that's already moving. Example, a spline attached to a different ship. Towards the end of the year, AI tech started looking for a better solution to generating navigation mesh on planets, as the current implementation could be faster and has problems generating navigation mesh close to planetary poles, which is affecting some outpost locations and their associated NPCs. This is currently in progress and will update, and an update will be provided in a future report. So this is literally word for word exactly what was in the Star Citizen monthly report. And I want to use this as a highlighted example. This is an example of how much tech is shared between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. They are effectively the same game. They use just about all of the same stuff. There's only a couple of differences, the main differences being the more narrative-driven approach of Squadron with cutscenes and such, which you don't really have in Star Citizen. Though it doesn't mean that they couldn't put them in Star Citizen if CIG didn't want to. So this is an example of how much content is shared back and forth. So if you don't care about Squadron and you only care about Star Citizen, this is a good way of telling you about how quickly the stuff that was developed for Squadron should be able to be implemented in Star Citizen, because they literally share the same bedrock of information. So, animation. Animation teams worked on player skill animations such as takedowns, vaulting, mantling, and exercise, and continued developing first select animations to show off unique aspects of the game's weapons. They also continued to develop the combat AI sets, including a unique boss fight. So it seems like this is a boss fight update. The social team worked alongside level design to add life across various chapters, which was supported by the mocap team. On the facial side, the devs continue to develop facial content for the cast of characters and combat and social AI that drive the narrative. Okay. Social and boss fights. Features gameplay. Gameplay features spent time towards the end of the year looking at what's needed to implement some of their Squadron 42 features into the PU, including additional requirements not needed for the single-player campaign. Most features are moving over smoothly, though the new mobiGlass requires work supporting existing apps not found in Squadron 42. Okay, that's a good. That's definitely a sign that mobiGlass may not make it in Q1, but we'll see. The star map is currently being polished, with fixes for labels and better transitions between solar systems and mini-map views. This is adapted to work well on a 2D vehicle multifunction display screens, which will need to support multiple solar systems when Pyro comes online. There was also developments using minimap rendering inside the star map holosphere for the new landing UI, so players can see the walls, floors, and ceilings in their ship's radar when they're coming into land. The character customizer was polished, including better rendering for the head library grid. The team also experimented with different UI for face sculpting and made other general usability improvements. They're currently looking at ways to better serialize the data and reduce size requirements. The Squad 42 front end received polish, with the save game profiles now displaying relevant customized character and dramatically changing environment depending on progress. Okay. So, yeah, this is all November, December, but a lot of this stuff, if it's mentioned, could mean that a lot of this stuff is obviously being polished in Squadron and then pushed over. So, but the landing UI is a big one. A big focus for gameplay story during November was the Fortune's Cross level, including a scene featuring an NPC talking to the player with branching dialogue. So Fortune's Cross is a station in Odin. So we've actually seen it in some of the videos before. This is quite typical of many of our scenes, apart from the fact it's taking place on a moving escalator. Whilst looking into this, we decided to take responsibility for getting the NPC to traverse all 4 escalators on the level. This was quite a technical challenge that required a lot of difficult investigation. However, with some help from design, we were able to get the character to seamlessly enter and exit all 4 escalators while they are moving. Gameplay story team. Alongside this, the team worked on a range of scenes across various chapters, including new mocap, updating poses, and fixing problems. In December, Gameplay Story made several significant updates to the scenes in Chapter 5. This involved using new mocap to improve how 2 characters meet and walk up the stairs at the start of the chapter. New mocap was also used to animate 4 characters exiting a tram before 6 get on, which was a challenge for timing and space, but works well. The team also implemented a new dialogue-heavy 3-person scene in the Shubin hangar, and use additional mocap to make the key character walk to and from a meeting scene in Chapter 4. Graphics, VFX, and programming. So this is going to be a lot of technical talk, which may mean that a lot of the stuff we're going to hear is very engine heavy. So excuse me, I may not understand everything that's being said, but I'll do my best to speak it. If you do, please let me know in the comments below what is being said. At the end of 2023, the graphics team largely progressed with their longer-term tasks. For example, work continued on improving the visual quality of gas clouds through the addition of directional occlusion effect. The gas cloud system output is also being unified with the planetary cloud system so that the new cloud upscaling solution can be used by both. Global Illumination team added support for transparency via dense view Fulstrom voxel grid of low-resolution probes, along with sparser zone space grid of higher resolution probes. Work is also ongoing to improve the representation of materials in the ray tracing system. Vulkan is reaching the final stages of development, with the team wrapping up the last of their rendering tech. Ongoing work is targeting reducing stutter by working on the shader/PSO compilation caching and general performance polishing before the initial release. I think we're getting Vulkan in StarCitizen 3.23. Almost certainly with that. If this is the end of last year, yeah, almost certainly March we're going to get Vulkan version 1. Planet Tech team continued wrapping up the water feature, focusing on the robustness, memory usage, and performance. Alongside this, the graphics team improved the water edge effects against both the environment and visor/camera lens. VFX programming worked towards finishing off fire hazard visuals, investigated networking support for fire hazard system, and added support for water VFX. On the tool side, the support is being added for unique IDs associated with each particle effect to allow for robust referencing and the reorganization of effects. What's that there? It was gameplay story. Level design. So, it's important to note that level design is broken up into 3 different teams: FPS, space, and social. So when you're looking at anything about level design, there are 3 separate teams that work on it. That may have changed. They did break up into strike teams to specifically tackle each the first couple of chapters right now. I think it's the first 3 arcs of the game. And strike teams are usually made up of one person from almost all the teams together to kind of, work on, like, together to look at stuff. And you can see that on the progress tracker. So, Level Design's social narrative team pushed with the Idris interstitials, prioritizing the medbay and corridor sections and clearing out the backlog of bugs and tasks along with other miscellaneous blockers. Chapter 1's Javelin social selection was also a key focus. Though a comparatively small section of the chapter as the opening of the game, it's hugely important as it sets the scene for what's to come. November featured multiple reviews and several rounds of feedback, which led to the team tweaking content and adding new mocap, with the latter making significant difference in quality. In the past, mocap turnaround could be lengthy. However, thanks to the new on-site studio, content can be in-game within a matter of days. Chapter 4 was also a focus, which involves an NPC leading the player through a social area of a rundown stopover station. There was also a concerted push on Archon Station, which is the Shubin station, which has hundreds of background crew going about their daily business. This involved collaborating with the AI content team, who have been striving to make the AI in these sections as convincing as possible. A lot of social stuff. Narrative. Towards the end of a busy year on Squadron 42's development, the narrative team continued to support the editorial selects from the content shot in the summer and fall. Over the past 2 months, they worked with production to assess all tasks that are currently being assigned to narrative team to make sure they cover all known remaining work. These tasks might change based on continued development, but this process allows the team to figure out what they can jump to in 2024. The team also revised the script treatment to reflect any changes in the flow since the last version. Narrative continued to define the collectibles that will be scattered throughout the levels. Some of these are a little more involved than others, but the team synced with the design and art to understand the number and placement of these various objects. As more and more content makes its way into the game, reviews of the various levels with other teams will be important to make sure that the intended tone is coming through. The social teams have been focusing on larger social areas lately to make sure they feel populated and alive. Narrative team. Okay. Tech animation. The technical animation team spent the end of the year on deliverables for content teams across both projects. These include an outfit manager that will pull together a set of assets for any character outfit in game. This will be able to help the animation teams author specific content. Previously missing from the pipeline, physics proxy tools creation was added for an intuitive and streamlined way to create physicalized skeletons in Maya. An animation events editor was also added to keep audio linked to animations across the projects. New ADB diff tools also help the devs track and diagnose problems with complex XML format files that need historical context to be useful. A replacement for a very old toolset that validates content being exported from Maya was created. We're now in the position to add to the tests and potentially change some low-level paradigms to enable exploration of new pipeline possibilities. Technical animation team. That sounded like gobbledygook, but maybe it means something to somebody else. Additionally, technical animation authored and fixed more head assets, refined existing pipelines, continued developing engine animation teams, systems, and ideated on additional ways to help them approach Gold Master. Lastly, VFX. In November, December, the VFX team continued to provide effects to support the variety of locations, as well as some key cinematic sequences. They also continued to fine-tune water, including underwater effects. All right. So, it's very short this for these last 2 months. Mostly seem to be focused on social aspects. some narrative stuff, but social stuff like with level design and narrative. A lot of social stuff with gameplay story, and then the other aspects was boss play gameplay. So it's mostly social and bosses. So social bosses. Hopefully that you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure, as always, let me know in the comments below what you think about any of this, of any of my ideas, like Vulkan coming in Q1. Do you think I'm crazy or not? And remember to subscribe for more content. Follow us on Twitch. And yeah, come join these folks live. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.